Hello, my name is Jan Bush, and welcome to STEM Strong News. On August 4th, the Directed Energy Directorate of the Air Force Research Laboratory signed educational partnership agreements with two museums that have exceptional informal science education programs: Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum out of Portland, Oregon, and Explorer in Albuquerque, New Mexico, in order to innovate, collaborate, and reach out to the future scientists of America.
Turn it over to my esteemed chief scientist. I'm the guy who's supposed to make sure the budgets match. He's the one who gets to actually make sure all the cool science gets done. So, Dr. Peterkin.
Thank you, Dr. Hardy. So, yeah, I'm Bob Peterkin, and David Hardy is my boss, but I have a cooler title than he has. I am the Chief Scientist of the Directed Energy Directorate. That is a job I've always aspired to, and it is very cool. Born and raised in Jersey City, New Jersey, and I escaped, and I was lucky enough to go to school in Boston. And then on my honeymoon, my wife and I visited New Mexico for the first time back in 1978. And we were drawn to the place. So after we finished graduate school in North Carolina, we were lucky enough to get a job offer from a small company, a business in New Mexico. It doesn't exist anymore. It's called Mission Research Corporation, and decided to make a state change in my career and leave pure science and go into science for national defense. And we're delighted to be here since 1983. My wife and I just love it here. So as the chief scientist for directed energy, it's also my job to let folks know what directed energy is, what it means. And of course, in the DoD, where we leave nothing to chance, there's an official definition of directed energy. I thank my colleague Kirk Hackett, president of the Directed Energy Professional Society, for supplying this to me. But it's actually a pretty good, pretty concise, pretty simple definition. Directed energy is a beam of concentrated electromagnetic energy, plain and simple. From the national defense perspective, DE is useful because the ability to focus energy that travels at the speed of light allows us to develop defensive protection measures that are precise, that have low collateral damage, and are therefore non-lethal. Electromagnetic energy is described by wavelength. The two most familiar parts of electromagnetic spectrum are radio waves and microwaves, and light. And in my directorate, in our directorate, we do mostly research in those two parts of the electromagnetic spectrum. We do very exciting research in high energy lasers. The lasers of science fiction are incredible, but the lasers of reality are quite simply amazing. The world's most powerful laser, used to be called the airborne laser, the ABL, uses a laser concept invented in this laboratory back in 1977. In the intervening 34 years, we scaled the power up by a lot and solved some really complex problems in pointing, tracking, aeromechanics, and aero-optics to allow us in 2010 to shoot down a missile from a very long range. We do exciting work in high-power microwaves. As it turns out, the very high peak electric field of a very high-power microwave burst can disrupt computers. And I'm talking high powers like 1,000,000 times the power of a microwave oven, but for very short lengths of time, like less than 1,000,000th of a second. Well, we do another kind of science here in the Directed Energy Directorate I want to tell you about. For a high energy laser system, you need sophisticated optics to form and focus a laser beam, but our expertise in optics lets us do, in some sense, the inverse problem. So in this directorate, we also have a couple of very high quality, very large telescopes. And we use these telescopes to look at objects outside of the Earth's atmosphere. The Earth's atmosphere is not a friend to optical wavefront propagation. So again, in this laboratory, a few decades ago, we invented something called adaptive optics, a way of deforming optical sensors to compensate for the deleterious effects that an atmosphere brings to an optical wavefront coming from an object that's outside of the atmosphere. So I've come a long way since New Jersey, where I actually never saw the stars, to this beautiful place where my colleagues and I control light, control the electromagnetic spectrum for national defense.
For more information, check out STEM Strong's YouTube channel, blog, or follow us on Twitter